do this. How you doing, everybody? Hope you are doing well. Welcome to Facebuster Wrestling Podcast. This is episode number 1, and what better time to start a wrestling podcast than right at the end of the road to WrestleMania. We're almost there. We're less than a week away. Tonight was the very last episode of Monday Night Raw before we officially reach the big weekend. Of course, there's still one more show. 2, if you count NXT on Tuesday. But SmackDown still yet to air this coming Friday. But you would expect the last Raw before WrestleMania to be big and important. And nonetheless, this time around, it was not. Whatsoever. They seemed tonight to focus on tune-up matches, video packages and vignettes for some of the more important competitors being featured at WrestleMania. I believe we saw one for Bianca. We saw one for Asuka. But nothing else really relevant in terms of storyline progression heading into WrestleMania. I think we saw a bulk of that last week, on last week's Raw, and to a certain extent on SmackDown last week as well. This week's Raw, a little lackluster. Kind of didn't seem on par with what a go-home show into a WrestleMania should be. But nonetheless, not going to talk a lot about Raw, but instead, we're going to talk mostly WrestleMania predictions. We're going to talk NXT Stand and Deliver predictions. There is one thing still yet to come before WrestleMania that I want to talk about that I believe will have some implications heading into WrestleMania, and that is one match announced for SmackDown this Friday, being the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. You'll notice Bobby Lashley is on this list of entrants. Bobby Lashley was supposed to have a match with Mr. Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. Well, that now is somewhat questionable. Apparently, it is rumored that Bray Wyatt is dealing with either an injury or an illness. Something is going on with Bray Wyatt. He has not been on either SmackDown or Raw for the past few weeks, nor has Uncle Howdy. So, it's interesting that Bobby Lashley is on the list of entrants for Andre the Giant's Battle Royal. And that is because it sort of almost solidifies that the Bray Wyatt match is not going to happen. So they got to find a way to get Bobby Lashley on WrestleMania. Of course, he's one of their top guys. So the argument for Bobby Lashley being on this is that he will win this and somehow make it onto the WrestleMania card because of that. Maybe this qualifies him for a spot. But my other most interesting potential winner of this match is LA Knight. The reason LA Knight could be given this match is because we've all seen him these past couple of weeks complaining that you can't have a WrestleMania in LA without LA Knight. And it's true. He's been one of their hotter competitors. He's taken a lot of losses lately. But he's getting a great reaction from the crowd. And he's really performing on a high level. This guy's got to be included in WrestleMania somehow. So if you give him this win, typically Andre the Giant Battle Royal winners get somewhat of a push into a bigger spotlight following that win. But also, this gives LA Knight a reason to sort of intrude at some point on WrestleMania and opens up a spot for him to either have a match or at least some sort of spot on the card somewhere. So, Bobby Lashley, LA Knight, they both need reasons to be at WrestleMania, and this could help them establish that. What happens at WrestleMania with either of these guys, I'll discuss later because that will be during the WrestleMania predictions portion of this podcast. But I expect one of those two guys to win. Karrion Kross, I just don't see him being an Andre the Giant Battle Royal winner kind of guy. I don't think he needs it. At the same time, I don't think Lashley needs it either. Honestly, I think the prime candidate for this Battle Royal to win it would be LA Knight. He's taken a lot of losses of late. It hasn't necessarily crushed his steam or momentum. He's remained relevant on television, and people are interested in him still. LA Knight is the perfect candidate for this. You could also argue a guy like Bronson Reed. Maybe they give it to Baron Corbin again, but I think Baron Corbin is going back to bum-ass Corbin very soon. And victories will not assist in that gimmick taking shape once more. So, yeah, I've got to say LA Knight is my prediction to take this Battle Royal victory and parlay it into a WrestleMania appearance. And we'll get into what I think that's going to look like a little bit later. But so this week NXT has been taped. I accidentally came across the spoilers on Twitter. So one of these matches is going to feature a competitor that we're not supposed to know is going to be in this said match until after NXT tomorrow night. So to do my best to avoid spoiling NXT for anybody who still wants to see it tomorrow night, I'm not going to mention this person's name. But the first match I want to talk about is Wesley versus Dragon Lee versus JD McDonough versus Ilya Dragunov versus some guy that I know, but you might not want to know yet, so I'm not going to say it. Doesn't matter, because isn't going to win this match. I see Wesley retaining. I think they want Wes to have this title for a little bit longer. Since he's won the North American Championship, I haven't really seen him as being an established singles title guy yet. He's done really well. He's a natural on the mic. He's got charisma. The crowd loves him. But he just hasn't struck me as that guy yet. He still feels like a tag team dude to me. Part of me still wonders, at some point, is WWE going to smarten up and bring Nash Carter back? I think he caught a real bad break, and I really think he deserves another opportunity. So, at some point, is MSK a thing again? Maybe that's something that begins to materialize here. I think, like I said, I think Wesley retains. But I can't help but wonder, this is a big show, maybe we get a surprise. Maybe Nash comes out. Maybe he surprises Wesley. Maybe he comes out and turns on Wesley. Don't think that's going to happen either. But it is a big show. They need something to surprise people. And that would be a pretty big surprise, right? Either way, again, Wesley retains. I think this is going to be a great match. We got some great competitors here. It's going to be the first time NXT viewers see Dragon Lee in an NXT ring, in an NXT match. And JD McDonough is great. Ilya Dragunov is super great. And the other guy is great too. So it's going to be a good match. I think they want to try to keep establishing Wesley as a solo title guy, and I think this might help him in that area. So next up, let's talk Schism versus Tyler Bate, Andre Chase, Duke Hudson, and Thea Hale chase you in a 8-person tag team match. I am looking at Schism taking this. I think Schism wins this match. I think it's a decent, probably opening match. But I think this develops into something. I think in the end, yes, Schism takes the victory, and whatever happens during the course of this match leads either or Hale and or Hudson to sort of maybe not turn on Chase U. Well, maybe in Hudson's case, maybe turn on Chase U and Andre Chase. But I think one of these two, or maybe both, either leave Chase U, turn on Chase U, or join Schism. Particularly in Hale's case. I think whatever weird thing that they did to her when they captured her, when they kidnapped Thea Hale for like an hour and scared the shit out of her, whatever happened there is probably still in her head, right? And whatever happens during this match, whatever power Schism has over Thea Hale now, starts to win her to their side. I think it's possible NXT higher-ups want to see another side of Hale, see what she's got in the weird, creepy department, and go from there. I think Hudson, he's already had conflict with Andre Chase over how the university is run, over how their school is kind of a joke, and all they do is lose. Why wouldn't he want to leave if they lose this match? And in the future, I could see Tyler Bate kind of sticking around Chase U. He seems like the type of character that would mesh well with Andre Chase. I think Tyler Bate is meant for bigger things than this. But as a way to sort of build him up in NXT, stick him with Andre Chase for a while. Let him be the yoga and meditation guru on the Andre Chase Chase U campus. Maybe he shows up with a guitar at every match and plays Wonderwall before the fight starts. Who knows? I don't know. But that's what I could see happening. Schism wins. Chase U leaves completely fractured and somewhat restructured, with Tyler Bate sort of being implemented more into Chase U, and Hudson and Hale taking their exit. Moving on, what I assume is going to be the second match on the card, if I'm not mistaken. Gallus versus the Creed Brothers versus Tony D'Angelo and Channing Stacks Lorenzo in a triple threat tag team match for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Interesting trio of teams. Gallus, they work well together as a team. Look, I'm one of the few people that used to watch NXT UK on a regular basis before they folded. I've seen Gallus plenty of times. They do their thing well, but it's not super exciting to me. Gallus, Mark Coffey, and Wolfgang, they seem a little old for NXT. They seem a little weathered for NXT. They just don't. They never fit to me, and that goes for Joe Coffey as well. Which, speaking of Joe Coffey, we haven't seen him in a while. Does he rear his head in this match? I could see it happening. Don't be surprised if you see Joe Coffey at some point in this match. Either way, I don't think they're meant to hold the titles for long. I see them as transitional champions. But I also don't think the Creed brothers get this either. I see Tony D and Stacks taking this. Weird. right? I know it sounds strange to hear, and it's a little strange for me to say. But have you noticed on recent episodes of NXT, Tony D and Stax are like, they're this close to being faces. The crowd loves Tony D. And I think the crowd is really starting to get behind Stax too. Which is weird because the guy is still somewhat new. He hasn't been there very long. But NXT, the brand, clearly likes this guy too. They gave him a match with Shinsuke. They don't just give matches like that to people. They don't just have Shinsuke come back to NXT for a match against anybody. That's having faith in a dude. I see something in Stax. He's proven himself to be. I think he's gonna be really good. In a while, he's good now, but I think in a few years this guy's gonna be just fine on his own. There's a lot of potential in Stax, and I think this is the beginning of it. I think Tony D and Stax take this one. I think they become NXT Tag Team Champions, and I think the face turn begins. I think it's already sort of started these last few weeks. The crowd they want to cheer these guys, and they kind of, sometimes they respond to it in a face kind of way. So it'd be a natural turn. The Creed brothers, they need something a little bit more. They started off real hot, especially when Diamond Mine was a whole, the original Diamond Mine. They had a lot of momentum, but they're missing something. I want to see something a little more exciting and interesting out of the Creed brothers. I think they'll eventually be just fine. There's a missing ingredient. They need it. I don't know if that's Roderick Strong. And I don't think, it doesn't seem like we're going to see Roddy anytime soon. It sounds like he's done. It sounds like he doesn't want to be there. So they need to find something. In the meantime, Tony D, I think he needs a belt at this point. He's proven himself. And Stax is a guy to look at for the future that I think is going to be bigger than a lot of people think. So, moving on, let's talk another tag team title match. This time the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. We have Fallon Henley and Kiana James defending against Alba Fire and Isla Dawn. Speaking of transitional champions, Henley and James have got to be that. There's no way Henley and James are a long-term tag team. Clearly. They're too different. This isn't going to last. And I think it ends as Stand and Deliver. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, while they were sort of rushed together, I think have potential at least to be a long-term tag team. It makes more sense for them. Far more sense than Henley and James. Fire and Dawn, they know each other. They work well together as a team. They have history, even dating back to NXT UK. It makes sense for them to win this match. They just look like a team. Put Alba Fire and Isla Dawn next to Katana Chance and Caden Carter. Dawn and Fire look more like a team than Chance and Carter. So I see Fire and Dawn winning this. I think potentially Tatum Paxley helps in some way, or at least makes her presence felt. Obviously, they're teasing her having some sort of weird alliance with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, so why not ignite that here? I see Henley and James splitting, or at least starting to split at this point. And as far as the Brooks Jensen scenario goes, I think at some point, perhaps at Stand and Deliver, maybe in a backstage segment post this match. Well, we find out somehow that this Sebastian guy, remember Sebastian, the name Sebastian, that's who Briggs and Fallon Henley found his name in Kiana James's schedule for like dinner and drinks or something. There were flowers on Kiana James's desk with a card. The name on it was Sebastian. I think we find out that's like a nickname for Brooks in some weird way. Like maybe at some point on a date they watched The Little Mermaid or some shit, and Sebastian the crab reminded her of Brooks, or Brooks did a impression of Sebastian. Henley has sort of indicated that she doesn't want Brooks being told by Henley that they found Sebastian on the schedule. Maybe she's embarrassed that that's a secret nickname or something. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be like the previous thing with Zach, who ended up being Kiana James's brother. Kiana James is going to end up not being unloyal to Brooks. This is going to blow up in Fallon Henley's face. Kiana James is going to have a reason to split with Henley because Henley doesn't trust her and she's been invading her privacy. She broke into her office. She won't cut her a break. And that's that for that team. And that probably starts another feud between the two. I don't know. Perhaps that starts dissension between Briggs and Jensen. We'll see where that goes. But either way, Fire, Dawn, they take the win and they take the belts. Okay, so I'm going to be honest with all of you. I did a little bit of split recording of this podcast. I did have a chance to watch NXT. NXT has come and gone, even though I knew the results beforehand. But we find out in this episode that Roxanne Perez is back from her mysterious injury/illness. We learned it was a case of exhaustion and anxiety. Which, okay, interesting. I'm glad they finally explained it. It's no longer a mystery to us. But we now know that Shawn Michaels has allowed her back into this match to essentially defend her NXT Women's Championship. So, we have now, in the ladder match for the NXT Women's Championship, Roxanne Perez, Zoe Stark, Gigi Dolan, Tiffany Stratton, and Lyra Valkyria. When I originally recorded this segment, I picked Stratton to win this. This is before I had found out that Roxanne Perez was placed back into this match. I still want Stratton to win this. However, I don't know if that's my prediction anymore. They really want to push Roxanne Perez as this super tough, scrappy hero. And they've done a good job so far. I'm not really convinced. I can see that Roxanne is really good. She's going to be very good. But there are certain aspects of her that could use some development, in my opinion. She's not quite fully baked yet. She's not a finished product. As good as she is, as much of a prodigy as they want to bill her as, I don't think she's quite there. She's good for her age and her experience level, but there's just some aspects of her that I find slightly irritating. I want Stratton to win this still, but because of Roxanne being back in this match, I think it's going to be Roxanne. I think she retains her NXT Women's Championship, and I wouldn't dismiss the idea of Meiko Satomura coming out and congratulating her. I think this is a much more straightforward outcome now that Roxanne is back. I do wonder what really was the true reason behind her having the collapse at at Roadblock against Mako Satomura. Clearly, it's something that she was able to be cleared from so that she could be in this match, or maybe that's part of the storyline. It's just it's been a very mysterious circumstance to this point. It was clearly at least half storyline by the way they showed it in its entirety on that broadcast of NXT of Roadblock. But it was also half reality, right? Like there was probably legitimately something going on with her that she needed to get checked out. She needed to be cleared. At least that's what I see at this point. Her return does sort of muddy up this match for me. As I said, I had Stratton winning. I do still hope she wins, but my official prediction is Roxanne takes this. I think Zoe Stark moves on after this match. I think Gigi Dolan, kind of like Roxanne Perez, still has a little bit of cooking to do. Lyra Valkyria, I absolutely love Lyra Valkyria. That goes back, my fandom for her goes back to NXT UK. I absolutely loved watching her in NXT UK. She was great as Aoife Valkyrie. She's got it, man. She's gonna be something. Just not quite yet. She hasn't done a whole lot on NXT US NXT television yet. She will get there. I think she has some more development to do. I think she is a future champion, be it in NXT or WWE. And Tiffany Stratton, man, I am such a fan of hers. I love her shitty, arrogant, egotistical Valley Girl character. She plays it extremely well, and she's improved leaps and bounds on her in-ring material. She's been great, and she's killer on the mic whenever she gets a chance to speak. The Tiffany Epiphany thing is gold. It's Valley Girl cheesy to the point where it just comes off as very genuine coming from her. She is look, when people talk about the future of the women's division in NXT and WWE, I think a lot of people say Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. I say Tiffany Stratton and Sol Ruca. Those are my two future stars. Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade will be something, but I think the top of the food chain in the women's division, in a matter of years, will be Tiffany Stratton and Sol Ruca. Tiffany Stratton has been great since she debuted, and she's done nothing but improve. In her very first match, she botched one move, and people gave her all sorts of for it. It was the double backflip into her opponent in the corner. I think she flubbed it a little bit, but people really got on her for that. And I think it was exaggerated by her character. Like, you can't be an affluent, egotistical, arrogant Valley Girl heel and mess it up like that. It doesn't. It just sort of emphasized the mistake, the botch. But since that moment, I haven't seen her screw one thing up in the ring. She's been great. I wanted this to be Stratton's time. She does have more development to do, but I thought they'd give her a shot, especially if Roxanne Perez was going to be on the shelf. And I think they're saving Gigi Dolan potentially being champion for when Jacy Jayne gets back, who's legitimately injured. So this one goes to Roxanne Perez. Wouldn't be surprised at the end, like I said, maybe Mako shows up, congratulates her. Some sort of development from that angle that they pulled off at Roadblock. But yeah, I see Perez retaining her title. Next up on my list is the unsanctioned match between Johnny Gargano and Grayson Waller. This is an interesting one to me. because I think this match accomplishes two things. Waller's going to get the win, but I don't think it's all about that. Of course, it's a very important part that Waller needs this win. He needs to get over on Gargano. He needs to be established as a next level NXT star, like they want to position him. And this is the type of win that will do it. I don't think it's going to be clean. Obviously, it's an unsanctioned match, so technically anything goes. But it's not going to be a quote-unquote clean victory for Waller. Here's why. One of the returns that I mentioned, I think one of those surprises is we see Mr. Tommaso Ciampa come back. So, again, unsanctioned match, but I see Waller trying to get over on Gargano in a dirty fashion. He pulls some cheap shots. Maybe he is doing something extra dastardly, like even for an unsanctioned match, it's something a little maybe uncalled for. And Ciampa's music hits. And out comes former DIY member, friend to Johnny Gargano, former rival as well. And everybody's thinking he's making his way to the ring like he's going to help his friend. But he's there to turn on him and give it to Waller, thus bringing their feud, rekindling their feud, and bringing it to the main roster. It got stale in NXT, I agree. But it's been a while. It's okay to bring it back. They want us to forget that Ciampa was with The Miz for a while. And this is a good way to do it. So that's what I see happening. Waller gets the win. He's established as one of the main stars of NXT, the big heel on the brand. And Ciampa returns to screw over Johnny and take their epic feud to Raw or SmackDown. And that could give it also something for Candice LeRae and Dexter Lumis to do, instead of just sort of having random matches with no story or meaning behind it. This gives them a storyline to fit into. So, several things are accomplished with this match, and that's the way I see it going down. So, now, main event. Braun Breaker versus Carmelo Hayes for the NXT Championship. Carmelo Hayes, unfortunately, is going to have to wait for that next level championship, because Braun Breaker is going to win this match. Yes, that may not be what a lot of you want to hear, but NXT still has a lot invested in Braun Breaker. Why? Because Braun Breaker still has a lot of improvements to make. He's still got a lot of work to do. His character development is not complete. Braun needs to stay in NXT. And why does that matter? Because I think the person that loses this match is no longer in NXT, and that's Carmelo Hayes with Trick Williams. I think they're main roster bound. I think this is a great match. This is a great showing for Carmelo. I think he almost takes it a number of times. Lots of false finishes in this one. This is going to be very NXT. But Braun Breaker is going to break through and defeat Carmelo Hayes. And I think that's going to bug the shit out of the crowd. We're going to see Braun win and just a super negative reaction from the crowd. And I think that's what they want. You remember a couple weeks ago, Jinder Mahal, he brought it up. The fans are starting to turn on Braun Breaker. We all see that. But it was really telling that Jinder Mahal brought that up in the ring, on television, on an episode of NXT. That's stuff they don't want you to recognize or acknowledge. I think they want us to acknowledge that, because I think they want to see what Braun has as a bad guy. We need to see what Braun has as a bad guy. The NXT needs to know what they have in Braun as a heel. And that ship has already started to sail. The fans have already turned partially on him. But I think the fans are so into Carmelo Hayes lately that Braun Breaker beating Carmelo Hayes, who everyone expects to win, is going to complete that process. Maybe he doesn't immediately turn heel that night at Stand and Deliver. But it certainly plants the seeds for him to be a dick moving forward. They got to see what they got out of a heel Braun Breaker. Carmelo Hayes doesn't need anything else from NXT. He doesn't need to win the NXT Championship. The dude is a complete package already. He is ready for the main roster. And for that matter, so is Trick Williams. Maybe not as a competitor, but as a mouthpiece, the guy is top level shit. Put Trick Williams on Raw or SmackDown right now. He's the top mic worker already. And Carmelo Hayes instantly becomes top 5 on either show as far as a worker goes. And on the mic. He's good on the mic. He doesn't need Trick Williams, but those two paired together is a perfect match. And they're going to do very well on the main roster. And it's going to take this loss to get him there. And he'll have some excuse like, I was so beyond NXT and guys like Braun Breaker. I didn't need to win that title. I'm better than that. Breaker wins, starts the heel turn. Mello and Trick dip. They are main roster bound. Post-Wrestlemania Raw. The Monday after the Sunday, he shows up. So that's NXT Stand and Deliver. Looks like a good show. So, NXT out of the way. Later that night, night 1 of WrestleMania. I'm not sure we know how the entire card is structured for the weekend. I think a few like the Reigns and Rhodes match, clearly that's Sunday night. I believe Logan Paul, Seth Rollins is Saturday. And I believe Cena and Theory is Saturday. I think that's all we really know so far as what days these matches will be. But let's just start from the bottom up, shall we? We don't need to know the days. Let's get right into it. Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan versus Shotzi and Natalya versus Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. Women's Fatal 4-Way Showcase match. What is this for? 3 of the teams had to qualify. One of the teams just automatically added. Already doesn't make sense. Ronda Rousey, really the only household name on this list. Is it even a question? Is there any future storyline development for any of these other teams? Shotzi and Natalya isn't a real team. Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan isn't a real team. Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville, maybe they could be a real team going forward. But obviously it's going to be Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. What are we doing here? Filler match. Rousey and Baszler win. That's it. Okay. Moving on. Let's talk about... there is one more match on this card that really doesn't matter. And that's another showcase match. It's another 4-way tag team showcase match. Street Profits versus Alpha Academy versus Viking Raiders versus Ricochet and Braun Strowman. Okay. What? Okay. To be fair, I see one reason this is happening, and I think it does involve some storyline progression. So I think the Street Profits do win, because besides the Viking Raiders, I don't know. Part of me wants this match to be a vehicle for splitting the Street Profits, so that Montez Ford can go do his thing and become the star that we have all seen that he can be. And that's not to shit on Dawkins. I think Dawkins isn't going to be a Marty Jannetty in any form or fashion. Dawkins, they like Dawkins. They'll do something with Dawkins. Dawkins has continued to improve and impress. If he continues getting into better shape, he's going to be even better. The Street Profits breaking up does not spell the end of Angelo Dawkins. But what it does mean for the rest of us is that we get a potential main event superstar in Montez Ford. It's going to happen someday. Why not at WrestleMania? But I don't think that's what's going to happen. That's why I think the Street Profits win. In contrast with the Women's Fatal 4-Way Showcase, heel team wins that one. 50-50 booking, kind of, in a way, not really, but sort of. The Street Profits, a face team's got to win. Ricochet and Braun Strowman, that's a temporary thing. That's not going to last. They can't win this match. Viking Raiders, heel team. Don't need this victory. This match, if anything, is a vehicle for Alpha Academy splitting up. Profits win, but Maximum Male Models and or Maxine gets involved somehow and causes the final split between Otis and Gable. Now this is a weird one, because I think Otis, as Otis in Maximum Male Models, is going to be a face. But I think this turn, or this split rather, kind of, I could see it making Chad Gable a face too. I've always found myself wanting to root for Chad Gable, even when he's being a dick, even when he's telling us shush. Whatever happens, whatever way they want to go, this will be the catalyst for that split and Otis joining Maximum Male Models and making the complete transition to Otis. Everybody kind of wants that, right? We all want goofy Otis back. We've seen the hints of it on television lately. Goofy Otis has slowly been trickling back, and I think it's time to pull the trigger. He's been kind of a big monster heelish guy for a while now. He's proved he can do it. Alpha Academy hit their peak with RK Bro. It's time. Besides that, this match means nothing. But this will be when the Alpha Academy goes its separate ways. Next, let's talk about father versus son. Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio. I love what they've done to build this up. I love Jailhouse Dominic. It's been great. I think Dominic is going to win this match. And I think Santos Escobar has something to do with it. I don't think he interferes in this match. I think he comes down at some point to perhaps help Rey Mysterio. Maybe Damian Priest gets involved. Maybe Rhea Ripley. And I could see Santos coming down to seemingly help Rey Mysterio. And he does. But it's not enough. And Dominic wins. Santos is left crushed. He looks up to Rey Mysterio. He considers him the king of luchadors. But seeing his disrespectful son beat him is too much for Santos. And he turns on Rey and claims that he should be the king of luchadors in place of Rey, who can't beat his own son, thus launching Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar into what I think could be an epic feud between those two. Dominic takes the win, probably in a sleazy way, launching him into legendary douchebag status from here on out, as if he hasn't been a big enough douchebag as it is. This will just make it even more so. And Rey Mysterio can move on. They'll revisit this at some point, right? This isn't the last time Dominic and Rey face off. Maybe next WrestleMania, Rey collects his win. They'll face off again. This isn't the last time. But Dominic takes round 1. Okay, so now let's talk the unknown. One of those unknowns is where LA Knight fits in on WrestleMania. We know he's going to be there. So as I mentioned earlier, perhaps winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal is his ticket, it's his excuse to get on to WrestleMania. Or, the flip side of the coin, maybe losing the Battle Royal is his ticket to WrestleMania. He could use that as he got screwed. He should have won the Battle Royal. So, LA Knight has an in just by being in the Battle Royal. The juicy rumor is it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. Okay. I get it. That would be awesome. But I have my doubts, and here's why. If Stone Cold Steve Austin is scheduled to make an appearance at WrestleMania, whether it be just a spot, a promo, or a match at that, don't you think WWE would want to advertise that? Surely they'd want people to know about that, because there's tons of people out there who, like last year, would tune in just for that bit of nostalgia with Stone Cold. That's why in the back of my head, when I hear Stone Cold Steve Austin as the potential opponent / foil for LA Knight, I think, I don't know, because I think if that was going to happen, they would have mentioned it to get those extra viewers, for the extra bit of merch they could sell. I don't know. Steve Austin would be great. If he comes out, I'd be happy. But I have my doubts because, man, if you know Austin's going to be there, if you're WWE, you put that on one of your promotional posters, on one of the WrestleMania match templates to put on TV, to get people excited about Stone Cold Steve Austin. The casual Attitude Era Stone Cold Steve Austin fan isn't going to tune in to the WrestleMania to see Steve Austin if he doesn't know he's going to be there or not. You'd want to advertise that appearance. You'd want people to know about that. You'd want to milk that just like last year for all that it's worth. But there is potential there. Here's why. These two get in the ring, start talking shit to each other. Maybe it develops into a match or a fight. But Stone Cold Steve Austin's thing is, oh, hell yeah, right? Oh, hell yeah. And LA Knight's thing is, yeah. So we could see where this is going, right? The back and forth of LA Knight interrupting Steve Austin. Oh, hell yeah. Shut up, boy. Oh, hell yeah. You can see that coming from a mile away. And if that happens, I won't be surprised. But still, part of me thinks it's not going to happen. I have my doubts that they'd not want to announce that. So let's look at some other potentials. As I mentioned earlier, Bray Wyatt versus Bobby Lashley. Up in the air. It's questionable. We don't know if it's actually going to happen. In fact, it's looking more and more likely that it's not. So Bobby Lashley potentially wins the Battle Royal. He dominates. Maybe the last two people in the ring at the Battle Royal are LA Knight and Bobby Lashley. LA Knight comes out at WrestleMania, starts talking shit, Where the hell's my match? I deserve to be on WrestleMania. WrestleMania deserves its LA moment. Out comes Lashley. That battle royal gives both of them a reason if things go awry with Bray Wyatt. And if LA Knight has nobody else to fight, it could be Lashley versus Knight. That's a quality matchup. That's WrestleMania worthy. How about Pat McAfee? Pat McAfee is actually the first person I thought of in this spot for coming out against LA Knight. Just as a surprise, just to show up. And we know Pat can go. Perhaps he's been training. We don't know what's going on with his commentary status. Apparently he doesn't know if he wants to work for WWE if it gets sold. But they aren't sold yet. He can come work WrestleMania. He's a talker. He can go back and forth with LA Knight. That'd be fun to see. And God help us all if it's Vince McMahon. Oh my God. What if it's Vince? What if it's Vince? What if this is his moment? What if this is his excuse to come out and be a part of WrestleMania? Oh God. I don't like to think about it. But you know, it's WrestleMania. What would WrestleMania be without Mr. McMahon? I don't want it. You don't want it. Or maybe secretly we do. So anyway, let's move on to our next official match that we know is going to happen. Let's talk about Gunther versus Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus for the Intercontinental Championship. Gunther defending, and I see Gunther retaining. I see Drew and Sheamus turning on each other. I don't see either of them turning heel anytime soon, but I do see them feuding because of this. Gunther retains because he's got to remain dominant. I'll talk a little bit more about why later, but I'll touch on it now. Imperium needs to remain powerful. They need to remain dominant. Because I believe Imperium, in particular Gunther, is going to be featured prominently moving forward. They see him as a main eventer, I believe. I see him as a main eventer. And he's got to defeat guys like Drew and Sheamus. I mean, he already has defeated Sheamus. But Drew's a step up from Sheamus, let's be real. And if he can beat them both in one match, think about it. Gunther he's coming into this. He's almost an underdog in this match. You expect one of them to take out Gunther, right? I don't think so. I think this is the way WWE elevates Gunther into the next level. And rightfully so. Gunther's great. Drew and Sheamus turn on each other, cost each other the match. Gunther takes advantage of him, and he retains. And he becomes very, very vital post-WrestleMania, and I'll tell you why later. Next up, Edge, or I assume the Brood version of Edge, versus Demon Finn Balor. Hell in a Cell. I've got some long-term fantasy booking to unravel for you right here. First off, Demon Finn is going to be Brood Edge. Possibly with the help of Damian Priest. But I think this possibly knocks Edge off TV for a while. Maybe even till next WrestleMania season. At some point, maybe around Survivor Series, he comes back. He's looking for blood. He's looking for revenge against Finn and the Judgment Day. But when he comes back, much later this year, he finally admits he can't take out Finn and Priest and the Judgment Day alone. This is going to set something up that isn't possible yet. WrestleMania 2024, April 6th and 7th, Edge and Christian versus Finn and Damian Priest, potentially, at WrestleMania 2024. Christian is signed in AEW till March of 2024. WrestleMania 2024 is the following month. If Christian fulfills his entire contract, he'll be a free agent just before WrestleMania 2024. Edge is winding down. I contemplated this being his last match. I contemplated Finn beating Edge because that's what guys who are heading out do for the younger guys. They elevate a younger guy. I could see Edge losing to Finn to sort of elevate him a bit in what might be his last match. I don't think this is it, though. I think he wants to go out with something a little bit more special and more meaningful to him. So what I see for the future is this being a match where Finn Balor and the Judgment Day beat the absolute shit out of Brood Edge. Storyline injury. He goes away for a while. And that's kind of how Edge works in WWE lately. He comes back for short spurts of time, 2 or 3 months. Then they find a reason to give him a break for a few months. So after WrestleMania, Edge is forced to the sidelines. He's written off TV because of this beating that he takes at WrestleMania. And he comes back maybe late summer, maybe early fall. Again, sometime around Survivor Series of later this year. And he insinuates he's not done with the Judgment Day. And why would he? That's his main goal, right? Is to take out the team that he created that ultimately pushed him to the side and kicked his ass out. But in recognition of his condition and his older age, he acknowledges, I can't beat you guys by myself. That's why I formed Judgment Day. I needed somebody by my side to have my back. And when I'm fighting Finn Balor and Damian Priest and possibly Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley, it can't just be me and Beth. I can't do this shit by myself. I need a little help. And I got some. And I'll see you at WrestleMania with a mystery partner. As if it'll be that mysterious. We all know at that point what's going on. But I think that could be his farewell. I think it would be super special for Edge and Christian to team up one last time. Or maybe 1 or 2 more times. And then ride off into the sunset together. Or maybe Christian wrestle somewhere. Who knows? I don't know. But Edge is winding down, dude. There's no way he's got much left in him. And if he does, kudos to him. But I think at this point, he's done what he's wanted to do. I mean, he hasn't won a major championship since coming back. I don't think he needs that. I'm not sure that he even wants that. He's done that before. Edge going out with Christian one last time at WrestleMania would be a beautiful way for him to go. Long-term fantasy booking again. But I'd love to see this match sort of set that up a little bit. Next up, Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. This I am looking forward to. Logan Paul, to this point in WWE, has been beyond my expectations for a performer, for a heel especially. He's a great heel. And he's given us some of the most memorable spots that we've had in some time. Most recently, the mid-air collision with Ricochet. That was f***ing cool. And in this match, I think Paul gets the win. And let's not forget who's hosting WrestleMania this year. None other than The Miz. The guy whose storyline trained Logan Paul and brought him into WWE stardom. The Miz has been getting involved with this rivalry sort of off to the side via Miz TV. He's going to be involved in this match somehow. Miz gets involved in this match somehow. But I think it's a distraction. I think it's a bit of a swerve. Because I think we see an old friend come back. Logan Paul wins this match with the help of a returning Matthew Riddle. The last major feud Matt Riddle had, besides with the Bloodline, was Seth Rollins. At the time, Matt Riddle was a face. Seth Rollins was a heel. Matt Riddle, he needs a makeover. Matt Riddle coming back and seeking revenge on Seth Rollins is a wonderful setup, because now that Seth Rollins is a face, Matt Riddle comes back not intending to be a heel, and he he exacts revenge on Rollins, thinking it's the right thing to do, right? This inadvertently makes Matt Riddle a heel. The fans love Seth Rollins right now. Or he could intend to be a bit of an asshole in showing up to beat Seth Rollins because he sees that the fans have grown to love Seth since Matt Riddle's been gone. And in Matt's head, he's like, what the hell? This is the guy that you guys wanted me to beat the shit out of because he was talking shit about my family? And now you're cheering him? What a great reason for a bit of a switch up. Matt Riddle blames the fans that while he was gone, they've taken a liking to the guy that was mocking him for losing his kids, for having a shitty relationship with his ex-wife. You like that guy? And it goes from there. But Paul picks up the win because of Riddle's involvement, and Paul can go away now for like 4 or 5 months until his next match. And we have the renewed rivalry of Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle, just with the roles reversed. I could see a very interesting dynamic of a heel Matt Riddle. Something has got to happen during this match. Seth Rollins is not going to lose clean to Logan Paul, especially not after tonight on Raw, saying that if he loses to Paul, that he's a joke, that Rollins is a joke if he loses to Paul. That statement alone kind of cemented in my brain that something off the wall is going to happen in this match, and I think Paul is going to take it. So next up, we got John Cena versus Austin Theory for the United States Championship. And I think this one is actually pretty straightforward. Theory wins. Cena isn't coming back full time to do U.S. title defenses. That's not going to happen. Not right now. Cena's too busy. He's not coming back full time to WWE. I don't think he ever actually comes back full time to WWE. Austin Theory. This match is to make Austin Theory look strong and legitimate. This is to establish him as the future. This is for John Cena somewhat to pass the torch on to Austin Theory. Do I think it's a clean outcome? Not necessarily. In fact, I think maybe that's how Austin Theory ultimately gets the win. Some f***ery is involved. Maybe he pulls the fast one. Maybe he sneaks in a eye gouge or a low blow, something. But Austin Theory has got to win this match. John Cena has nothing to gain from this. The WWE has nothing to gain from that because John Cena is not going to be here full time. They've done so much to establish the U.S. title as sort of another working man's title. It is constantly being defended, even by a heel like Austin Theory. He's constantly trying to prove himself as the U.S. champion. Austin Theory wins this match somehow. Straightforward, not a lot going on. Theory wins by something that should be disqualified, but he pulls a fast one. He sneaks one by the ref, and he gets the win over John Cena. So he has something to brag about, something to boast about, something for Theory to be Theory about. Ego-driven, arrogant, I'm better than you character. He needs this victory, and I think he gets it. Past that, Becky Lynch, Lita, and Trish Stratus versus Damage Control, Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky. Lynch and Lita and Trish have got to win this, right? We're kind of starting to see Damage Control fracturing just a slight bit. And I think that is ultimately, I believe that's what's going to become clear at WrestleMania after they lose this match. They aren't working. Damage Control is a bit of a failure. It doesn't work. It doesn't. These three don't fit well together. A lot of people are saying Trish is gonna turn on Becky Lynch and Lita. Oh, why? Is Trish Stratus coming back full time? That'd be great if she did. Trish is great, but see that happening. This is a showcase. One of those matches you see where they bring back Hall of Famers who aren't going to be full-time just for the spectacle of it. That's Lita and Trish. Lita's going to hang around a little bit longer because they have to defend their titles and lose their titles at some point. But I think Trish has a little bit more going on outside of WWE. I think she's a little bit more busy than perhaps Lita. Lita has time to stick around, but Trish, I guess if she does turn on them, maybe she'll be around for a couple more months to play out the whole story, but I don't see a turn for Trish. Damage Control has attacked Trish in the backstage area. We've seen that. We've seen Trish put hands on Damage Control. That's going to be a little hard to explain if she's covertly working for them or working with them. I think this match is for two things: the Hall of Famer spectacle of it, the nostalgia hit, and to sort of start to separate Damage Control. Io Sky would be fine on her own. Dakota Kai, maybe she goes away for a while and she comes back and she teams with Tegan Nox again. Or maybe she feuds with Tegan Nox. Bayley is Bayley. She doesn't need anybody else. Damage Control isn't working. They got to find a way to get rid of it. They have to find a way to break them up, and I think this is the beginning of it. If not the whole thing. Maybe we see them completely explode at WrestleMania following this loss. But I see Lynch and Lita and Trish taking this match. Now, speaking of spectacles, this next one, Brock Lesnar versus Omos. So, this is the match we get because it's two big guys. That's the reason it's happening. There's no real story behind it. It's just, there's two big dudes. Let's see them fight. Which is fine, but they should have been building this up a little bit longer. A lot of the rumors are that Vince McMahon put this one together. This was him sticking his grubby little fingers back into the creative cookie jar. It'll be fun to watch. I look forward to seeing these two battle, but I just wish there was a little bit more behind it. Back when Lesnar was still feuding with Lashley, not too long ago, they could have done something in the back where, Bobby and Brock are talking smack, and MVP comes up and tries to interject himself, even though MVP has supposedly nothing to do with Bobby anymore. But they had been teasing that reunion previously for a little bit. Maybe while this exchange is happening in the back, like I said, MVP is there trying to interject. And then here comes Omos, who MVP is currently managing. And he gets in on it. And maybe that at least plants a seed for something in the future. Maybe this is a match we'll see. Maybe this is a future WrestleMania match. That's something. They just sort of sloppily cobbled this together. But this is what's interesting. If indeed the Wyatt match with Lesnar is scrapped, perhaps this is how we see the Hurt Business come back, as they had been alluding to a couple of months ago at this point, I believe. So Omos gets the win, and boy, does it look like he should get the win, the way that they've portrayed this on Raw the last couple of weeks. They've really made Brock Lesnar look like he is no match for Omos. But maybe Brock Lesnar does put up a good fight. Maybe it is a more even battle than what we expect. Right now, the way they've portrayed it, we expect Omos to beat the absolute shit out of Brock Lesnar. But perhaps Brock has a little bit more of a fight, and that starts to worry MVP. And out comes the newly reunited Hurt Business, introducing Omos into that faction. Can you imagine that version of the Hurt Business? MVP, Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley, and Omos. That's some scary shit. So if Bobby has nothing to do because Bray Wyatt is somewhere, not at WrestleMania, maybe this is what they give him. Either way, even if that's not the case, they got to give this to Omos, right? This is a monster. This is a giant they're trying to build for the future. And as has been mentioned, I forget by who, but somebody made a good point that Brock Lesnar's a bit. He's got to start giving back. He's getting to that point. Maybe this is that time. He's got to give one to Omos. It's time to build a new giant monster. And this is the perfect time to do it, the perfect place to do it. Even though the match was sloppily slapped together, make Omos look like the next big thing. Omos gets the win, with or without help from the new Hurt Business. All right, one of two women's championship matches. This one for the Raw Women's Championship, Bianca Belair versus Asuka. I don't know about you. I've been 50-50 on the fence about the new Asuka. I know it's supposed to be a callback to Kana, her previous character in Japan, and it started off pretty great. But unfortunately, the last few times we've seen her, or maybe I'm just, maybe I'm a little damaged from what they've done to Asuka in the past, which is make her look like a bit of a joke. But the last few times we've seen her, she comes out to face Bianca Belair, laughing maniacally with her mist streaming down her face. It looks cool, but it reminds me too much of when they made Asuka kind of a joke, kind of a goofball, which is not what Asuka should be. She's supposed to be a beast. And yeah, she did turn on Bianca Belair after that tag team match they had a week or so ago on Raw. And that established her as the heel for this match, which needed to be done. But I want to see a fierce, scary Asuka. I don't want to see a funny clown, which is what they've made her look like in the past. And that's what her coming out with ooze dripping down her face and laughing kind of reminded me of. But I think this one's too easy right now. Bianca Belair retains. I feel bad that I feel this way about Asuka, because I see they're trying to rejuvenate her as a scary heel. It's not working yet. Maybe it eventually will. But to this point, for this match, I'm not sold. I'm not convinced. And I think Bianca Belair is somebody they have all their chips in on. She's the perfect champion for them right now. Eventually, I'd love to see her turn heel. But for right now, she's somebody who can take pictures with the babies, shake all the hands, do all the morning shows, do all the talk shows. And they love that. Bianca retains, and they continue to establish her as a legendary champion. The second of the women's championships, SmackDown Women's Championship, Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley. I believe Rhea takes this. I think Rhea's going to win. Rhea's on too much of a streak. Ripley's stock has risen so much since she aligned herself with Judgment Day. Her character work with Dominic has been spectacular. And Charlotte, since she has come back, has been a little weak, boring. Charlotte as a face is not as good as Charlotte as a heel. And even, you notice, fans are starting to turn on her a bit. They gave her the what treatment. I don't think Charlotte as a face is something that's going to last much longer. I think Ripley wins this because she's got so much going for her. She's got so much momentum. And one reason I think they want to get these titles on and off of Charlotte a little bit quickly is because I think in the long run, WWE wants Charlotte, who is at 14 world title reigns at this point. They want her to reach Ric Flair's milestone of 16. And I think they want her to do it while Rick is still alive, because I think they want to do a big celebration segment. They want to make a whole to-do about it. I think after this, Charlotte goes after Bianca Belair, and I think Ripley takes over as the main female heel on SmackDown. And Charlotte sort of trades spots with her and goes to Raw to face Bianca Belair, eventually taking the Raw Women's title as a heel off of Bianca Belair to get to 15. After that, just one more and she'll tie her dad, and they can do their celebration. I think that's what they're looking at long term with Charlotte, and that's why you see Ripley winning this one. So now, here we go, main event. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes for the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. Lots to unpack on this one. They're going to bring out the big guns. They're going to bring out the heavy artillery. Everything is on the table for this match. They will pull no stops. Roman Reigns is going to lose. All signs point to Cody Rhodes being the new Undisputed Universal Champion. Rhodes has to win this. He's their new guy. He's the new face of the company. And Roman Reigns has hardly taken a day off in 900 plus days. Roman Reigns has a big vacation coming up. It's time. The Bloodline storyline is not stale, but that is often the problem with the WWE. They don't know when to end something. You've got to end it, leaving people wanting more. They have a problem with letting things get stale. Let me reword that. They've had a problem with letting things go too long and getting stale. Since Triple H has taken over, they've been much better about having a finger on the pulse and knowing when to pull back, knowing when to end certain storylines, and knowing when to let things keep going. End this before people come to hate it. It's like a TV show, a TV series that stays beyond its welcome. Like The Walking Dead. Everybody loved The Walking Dead when it came out. The first few seasons were great. And then it just kept going and going and getting more and more convoluted and stale. And there were like 17 branch off shows from The Walking Dead. And suddenly you had to watch. It was too much. Know when to end it. Don't force feed more and more of certain storylines down our throats, as WWE did for years. End it before it gets to be laughable and stale and boring and convoluted. Now is the perfect time. You have the perfect opportunity. The story has written itself since Cody Rhodes has come back. He's proven he can be the guy, and I think they know that. I think Cody Rhodes defeats Roman Reigns, and I believe he does it clean. He's got Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn to have his back if the Usos and Solo Sikoa try to get involved. You know what? If he needs one extra guy, John Cena's going to be there. John Cena just gave him an endorsement on Raw. You need a fourth guy? Cena will be there. It's time for a new era. It's going to be the Cody Rhodes era. This will be the final nail in the coffin. After Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens take the Undisputed Tag Championships from the Usos. And this is the last part. Cody Rhodes beating Roman Reigns. I think this is going to be a long, arduous, but interesting and captivating match. All potential f***ery will be thwarted somehow. The things that you've seen the Bloodline pull to keep Roman Reigns as the tribal chief in the past will not be allowed this time. It will finally fail. Finally, Roman cannot be saved by his cousins. It's the perfect end. Roman needs time off. And this is the perfect way to end what has been an absolutely legendary run. So that's how I see it. Roman Reigns is finally taken down. And Cody Rhodes' story is complete. Can you imagine how emotional that victory celebration is going to be? Can you imagine how hard that crowd is going to pop for that moment? If Roman Reigns wins this somehow, 99% of that crowd is going to go home deflated and upset and disappointed. It's Cody Rhodes' time to shine, and I think that is what we're going to see. I think a lot of people worry if Roman is taken down and the Usos are taken down, what's going to happen next? What is there beyond the bloodline? They've been such an integral part of both Raw and SmackDown, the WWE as a whole, that it's like ripping the most important group of people from the brand. Like, there's going to be a void in storytelling. Where can you go from here? That's where we get post-WrestleMania predictions. Roman Reigns has to take time off. Also, the Usos deserve time off too. So the bloodline crumbles at WrestleMania, and we see those three. At least Solo will probably still be there in some form. Maybe Heyman takes a step away for a while as well. So who takes over as an opponent for Cody Rhodes going forward? If not Roman Reigns, who? Easy. Gunther. It's already set up by their first encounter at the Royal Rumble. The last two men in that Royal Rumble, who essentially had a match in itself as the two last remaining entrants in the Rumble. Cody Rhodes, who is on record said he only wants the WWE Championship, relinquishes the Universal Championship so others can have opportunities. That seems like the type of thing that Cody would do. The WWE Championship is the title he's coveted. His family had no ties to the Universal Championship. Give it to somebody else. Let somebody else fight over it. It was an honor to win it, but I'm only interested in this one, the WWE Championship. And Cody is the type of character who would want to give others opportunities. So he'd relinquish that one. The titles are no longer unified. And Gunther is the type of guy who wants to prove he's more powerful than Roman Reigns. So in retaining the IC title at WrestleMania, he finds his new goal is to unify the IC title and the WWE title, to establish himself as that similar type of powerhouse to Roman Reigns. And guess what? He's got the backup. Meanwhile, Cody Rhodes will probably work in conjunction with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn going forward, at least for a little bit. They'll stay together somewhat, united in an effort to cleanse the WWE of the remaining toxins of the bloodline. Well, Gunther's got Giovanni Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser, the rest of Imperium, who would be perfect opponents moving forward for Zayn and Owens and their tag team titles. So the post-bloodline universe has a clear path. It won't be an empty shell. Imperium and Gunther, while not the bloodline, they're a great faction, and I think they'll only get better. The stories they could write together with Rhodes and Owens and Zayn, I'm very intrigued to see. And I really do hope that's what we have moving forward. With that said, let's get into a little of what the post-WrestleMania Monday Night Raw is all about. The surprises, the returns, the debuts. So, call-up-wise, I'm looking at Cameron Grimes, who essentially has been called up for a while. He just hasn't been put on TV. But the dude's gotten absolutely ripped since he's been off TV. I don't know if any of you have seen that recent photo that was released of him on social media. Dude is jacked now. So we see Cameron Grimes, probably, on that post-WrestleMania Raw. And I think we see Carmelo and Trick Williams after their loss at Stand and Deliver. As I said, those two are ready for the big show. On the women's side of things, Zoe Stark, I think she's beyond ready for the main roster. She's gotten endorsements from women such as Charlotte Flair. And I think we also see Indy Hartwell. I think she comes up. I think she's got nothing else to gain from NXT. She's not going to be women's champion anytime soon down there. But I see her coming up, maybe tagging back up with Candice LeRae. And that little team of LeRae and Hartwell and Gargano and Dexter. Of course, Indy will be with Dexter again, too. They can focus on helping Johnny with his new old feud with Ciampa. So call-up wise, that's what I see. Returns, we've already mentioned it a little bit. Like I said, Tommaso Ciampa, I believe, is a returning guy that we'll see. Matt Riddle, as I mentioned before. But also, maybe Shinsuke Nakamura. We haven't seen him in a while. Why wouldn't they put him right back with Rick Boogs? That was a team that was gaining some steam. They were supposed to actually win the Raw Tag Team title. I believe the Raw Tag. Maybe it was a SmackDown. Before they unified the titles, they were supposed to actually get the titles off the Usos. They were that over. People don't remember that. And then, of course, Boogs got injured, and he's come back, and Nakamura has been absent since he had a match on NXT with Stax, and then he went to Japan to have that one of those last battles with the Great Muta. We haven't seen him since. Unless he's on an extended vacation, he could come back. Maybe he's more of a SmackDown return, I don't know. But then, of course, that leaves us with Mr. RKO, Randy Orton. Where does he fit in? I hear he's ready to come back. I hear he'll be in LA. Does he play into the Matt Riddle situation with Seth Rollins? Potentially. Or maybe he goes after Cody Rhodes. Either way, it's going to be interesting. It's been a while since I've been this excited about a WrestleMania. I think it'll be one of the best WrestleManias in a while. This is going to be the first WrestleMania under Triple H creative control. I'm eagerly anticipating this weekend. Even NXT Stand and Deliver, I think, will be pretty good. And I think the world of WWE moving forward is in an exciting place. A new era, a new champion, a new face of the company. And going back to earlier not this year, but starting sort of in the middle of last year, a rejuvenated fan base and a rejuvenated roster. Even with the specter of Vince McMahon sort of lurking in the back, you can tell these guys are still happy to be doing what they're doing under the creative control that they are under currently. Triple H has been a vast improvement to this product. I look forward to what he has in store for his first WrestleMania with creative control. I hope Vince McMahon keeps his grubby little fingers off of most of it. Of course, it's WrestleMania, though. It's his baby. He's got to have something to do with it. He'll at least probably be there. But I am looking forward to whatever happens next. I'm looking forward to a new era in WWE, and I can't wait to see what happens, and I can't wait to talk about it next time on Facebuster Wrestling Podcast. See you, everybody.